Hello there folks, and welcome to a new series from Harlequins. This is our Beginner's Guide 2 series. I'm your host Mark, and basically this time round we're going to be looking at card games. So if, like many people, you've had the New Year resolutions and you've gone, do you know what, I would like to get into card games. I've seen them dotted around, I've watched an anime, or I've seen my friends playing them in my local club, and I really want to get into that. But I have absolutely no idea how to do it. Well, I'm here to make sure that you don't end up like me, i.e. whenever I say I'm going to start going to the gym at the beginning of the year and I inevitably fail because of various reasons, like I can't really be bothered, or I make mistakes and it dissuades me. So I'm here to make sure that you don't do that, and I'm going to try and help you by giving you some of the advice that we've gleaned from Team Harlequins. With that being said, let's crack on with it. So obviously the first thing that you've got to do is pick your game. Now there are a great number of factors that come into this. It might be, for example, that you like a certain theme. Maybe you've seen one in an anime, or maybe your friends are playing. So first of all, you need to pick your game. There are a great many out there. For example, we have one of the biggest contenders in the world is Magic the Gathering. This is a huge game played by a lot of people with a fantasy aesthetic, where you take on the role of a wizard or a planeswalker who is capable of summoning other creatures and people to himself or herself and commanding them to do your will. This, like I say, is very popular. It sells millions around the world, and it's quite a good one to be getting into if you quite like that kind of aesthetic. It's also quite simple, easy to teach, and there are numerous resources to help you along, so it's a good bet if you want to try and get into card games for your first time. So that's one to start with. Failing that, if you're into more anime style card games and the like, maybe the style of it, maybe the artwork is a big thing for you. I know for me, I really like and appreciate the artwork on the cards, so maybe the anime is more your route. Well, you're covered there in quite a few different areas. You have Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is again one of the most popular games in the world, probably second only to Magic really. This is obviously based on the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cartoon or animation, and it is immensely popular with a large group of people. Many people often find that they watch the anime when they're younger, and that helps to drive them into the game when they're older because they see the game being played on the program. This covers many different aesthetics, so if you're into any one thing, you're probably going to find that there are monsters, there are fairies, there are cyborgs, there are pretty much everything you can think of in real life or in fantasy exists in the game, and probably some besides. I've seen cards based on trains, I've seen cards of ghost trains, I've seen cards of dustbins, I've seen cards of dice, I've seen cards of animals. There's some beautiful ones called the rescue animals, I believe, so rescue cat, rescue hamster, things like that. There is pretty much a deck out there for you regardless of theme. Obviously it plays very differently to some other games, but that's half of the joy to it, setting traps for your opponent and obviously leading on with spells and things like that. So if you like the anime, the chances are good that you're probably swayed more towards that one. In keeping with the anime side of things, there are a few other card games out there, such as Cardfight Vanguard. This game has a whole host of clans that are all themed about one thing or another, such as a dragon clan, a nature clan, or even a circus clan. If you're like me, then there's a clan that's perfect for you in terms of a giant robot that all forms together to make one mecha robot. Very much in the style of Power Rangers and various other Japanese inspired series besides it. The whole point of this game is that you have a card which is your Vanguard card, hence the name of the game, and they are all supported by other cards. Depending on the clan that you use, you will be able to combo off in different ways, either using your damage deck or using your deck itself, summoning other cards to support you or to beef up the character that you already have in play. This great game is eclectic and wonderful and has everything from sci-fi to monsters to anime to everything in between. Beyond that, we have things like Final Fantasy, which is obviously based on the hugely successful kind of everything. It obviously started off as a video game, but now you can get movies, cartoons, animation, all that kind of thing for Final Fantasy. So again, if you're into that, then obviously that brings all of those characters that you love into a card game that you can enjoy. If none of those appeal, then there are a plethora of other card games out there besides. We have the newly arrived Keyforge, which is a non-deck building game, which means that you don't have to alter your deck in any way to play it. In fact, you can't alter your deck in any way to play it. There are other ones as well, such as Lightseekers, and there is a Warhammer Age of Sigmar Champions game as well. So there really is so many card games. It really is up to you. With regards to theme and art style, it's down to personal preference. Just have a look out there and see what most appeals to you. If art and theme don't really appeal to you and you just like the idea of challenging somebody across the table to a card game, then look at the mechanics of the game, because that will help to really drive you. As I've already given you brief descriptions of some of them, you probably get an idea already. There is a vast array of different game styles out there, whether it's Vanguard, where there's limited cards in play at once, or whether it is Yu-Gi-Oh with setting traps for your opponent, or whether it's Magic where you just build up a board state or try and counter a combo somebody else off. There are so many different styles of card games that if maybe art and theme aren't your bag, then maybe looking into the mechanics of the game will help to push you in a direction of one over another. If you're still having problems trying to figure out which game that you think you'd like to get into, you can always consult a member of Team Harlequins, and we will go out of our way to try and help guide you towards the game that we think that you would enjoy the best. Once your game is decided, it's time to move on to the next part, checking the status of your game. So what do I mean by checking the status of your game, and why does it sound like homework? Well, I'm afraid the sad truth is it kind of is, but trust me, in the long run it will save you a lot of time, a lot of effort and a lot of frustration to do this small bit of research now. So really there's a couple of key factors to think about when you're checking the status of your game. I mentioned Vanguard in the choosing your game section of this video, so I will use that now as an example. Vanguard is a very popular game and it's been played for quite a few years now. But it recently underwent a version change, which meant that it went from version 1 to version 2. These things are important to look out for, because if you're looking to get into a game and you happen to buy in at the wrong moment, then chances are good that you'll spend a lot of money buying cards, decks, and learning tactics and things like that, and learning rules, and then not be able to play that a month from now. It will all change and you will be left out in the cold. It's important to look into what version of a game is up, and if there's any news on the internet about whether they're going to change it. It doesn't happen very often, so I don't want to worry you too much about that, but 5 minutes on the internet will normally clarify whether this is the case or not. So please be aware to check if there's any new versions of your game coming out in the future. Another key factor to consider is this game about to be cancelled? Again, this happens rarely, but it does happen and it's worth keeping an eye out for. I absolutely adored Netrunner when it was around, but it came without warning that the license had been revoked and therefore they could not continue to produce that game any further. To make matters worse, Fantasy Flight had just released the second version of their core set, giving people the impression that the game was going for a long time because they themselves had no idea that they were going to lose the license. Always keep an eye out to see whether or not a game is cancelled, being cancelled, or it's going to be cancelled soon. That information may not always be easy to find, but chances are good people will tell you about it if they know that's going to happen. You will normally see news articles saying this game is about to be cancelled, so take heed and don't buy into a game that you know is up for the chop. Thirdly, and arguably the most important thing to look into when you're checking the status of the game, is this game played local to you? Do you have a local game club and is this game played in it? There's absolutely no point in getting into something like, say, Magic the Gathering if the local club that you're planning to attend, nobody plays. You'll have no opponents and it will quickly diminish your enthusiasm for the game. On the flip side of that, you might not go to a local game group. Maybe you're completely new to the hobby scene entirely. Use Facebook and the game's forums to try and track down to see if people play the game that you've chosen in your area. Doing so will help you to build networks with people and help you to get some games and hopefully get you into playing the game on a regular basis. I can't stress how important this is, because if you do not have opponents then you cannot play the game. By the same token, are they a competitive or are they a casual scene? You might not know yet because you've just started playing what you want to do with the game. You might only want to use it as a way to relax and kill some time. But they might be hardcore competitive players who are looking to test their skills and push themselves against other players so that they take on others in tournaments and championships. If that's so, that might severely put you off the game if all you want to do is play casually. The reverse is also true. If you want to try and push this game, and you want to really get into it in a kind of hardcore way and become the very best there ever was, then a casual group will frustrate you and you will not be able to gain ground and get better at the game, playing against people that only really want to play some cards and have a few laughs while they're playing. Checking the status of your local game group is always a good thing to do and will help push you towards a game that you want to play, but not only that, one that will reward you for playing it. It sounds harsh, but at this point, if you've done a little bit of research and you found that there's nobody in your area playing the game that you were looking at playing, then you might want to go back to step one and try and choose a different game. Maybe choose one that they're already playing that's better suited towards your needs of casual or competitive play. It might be disappointing now, but imagine that if you'd spent money on this and time and effort only to find out that your hopes were dashed because there's no one to play against or nobody that wants to play with you to the standard that you wish to play. After all, there's nothing stopping you from trying to get into this game at a later date and maybe try and convince a few friends to join you. They're more likely to play this game with you if you've played another game with them. Quid pro quo. On the other hand, if you and a group of friends want to get into a card game that you've never played before, then my gym reference earlier on wasn't entirely out of place. I've seen many a community start because a few like-minded friends decided they wanted to try a card game for the first time and the community grew up around them. So don't despair, you can always try and build a community in your area from the ground up. This will be harder work, but you will have the support of your friends to help you along with this. But also be aware that this can backfire against you. I have seen it work the other way in that a group of friends start playing a game together and then get bored of playing only each other. So it depends on how strong your social group is and how much work you're willing to put in as to how successful that will be. But the flip side of that is, you will have the pride of accomplishing something that not many people can say that they've done with their life, which is start a social group in your area for a game system that you thoroughly enjoy. Anyway, with those points being made, what do we do next? So by this point, we're looking all set. We've chosen our game, we've looked into our community, we've maybe wrangled a few friends to start playing with us. So what's the next logical thing? Well, obviously it's playing the game. You don't know whether you're going to like it until you play it after all. It doesn't matter how good an anime is or how much of a good time other people have, if you don't enjoy it then this is all for nothing. So logically you've got a few steps at this point. If you have access to a gaming group, I thoroughly recommend getting one of them to see if they will teach you how to play the game, or maybe you and your friends if there are multiple of you trying to get involved in a new gaming system. Whilst you're there, if you're fortunate and the group is big enough, then you might end up being taught how to play a game and then be able to watch a few other people play as well. But please always remember to ask them first. It's always courteous to ask because not everybody likes to have somebody standing over their shoulder watching them play a card game. Please be courteous and always ask. But otherwise than that, most people are normally happy to have a newcomer watch them play. If on the other hand you're unlucky and you don't have a gaming group in your area that has somebody that is willing or able to teach you how to play the card game, then there are other avenues that you can take. The first, and I think one of the best ones, is that there are various games out there that have a digital format. So Magic the Gathering, for example, has a very well established at this point Magic Duels of the Planeswalkers, and it has also recently released Magic Arena. Both of these allow you to download the game for free and, more importantly for the premise of this video, will teach you how to play the game. There is also various Yu-Gi-Oh games out there and a few others besides. You can also learn via certain programs. Cardfight Vanguard, for example, has been praised for the fact that all of the instructions in the anime itself teach you how to play the game. Failing that, there's normally a video somewhere on YouTube that will teach you how to play the game system that you're looking to get into. Most of the big name card games that you look at getting into have at least one tutorial somewhere on YouTube, if not millions somewhere on the internet. I heartily recommend watching one of those first, just so you get an idea of how this game system works. Once you've been taught the game system, or you've seen it being played, or you've watched a tutorial or whatever, then you'll have a better understanding as to whether you want to carry on investing in this game. Assuming the answer to all of these is yes, then we just move on to step 4. Unfortunately, the reverse is also true. If you don't like what you've seen, then the only logical thing is to revert back to step 1 and start the process all over again. I'm sorry, but unfortunately it's better to do it that way than to get really heavily invested and spend loads of money only to have it all be for naught. But hopefully, all being well, you've made the right decision and everything's going well for you. So with that assumption in mind, we'll move on to step 4. By this point, if you've been following this video's advice, then you'll have a pretty good idea of what you're looking for out of this card game. Having done some research, played some demo games, and probably picked out a favourite faction. So what comes next? So now we get the fun bit. My advice to you at this point is just go out there, buy yourself an intro deck and just play as many games as you can. Don't worry about deck building for now, don't worry about buying booster packs, just get a singular deck and go and have some fun. Opening boosters is great fun, as I have said on my top 5 things I like about card games and many other videos besides. But for now, you don't want to get too bogged down with trying to mix cards in and breaking how your deck works. The most important thing is to learn the game properly and have fun while doing so. I myself have fallen victim to this in the early days of my hobby, when I bought an intro deck and started mixing cards in, and all of a sudden it just fell apart. The deck did not work and I stopped having fun, and it took me a while to recuperate from this experience. Don't let yourself fall prey to that. It's very easy to get all excited about opening boosters and then just start shoveling them into your deck. The best thing you can do by far and away is just get your intro deck, and just play some games. Have fun, that is the most important thing about this. Beyond that, all I can say is try not to be afraid of losing, and please be gracious when you do. It's all a learning experience after all. One last piece of practical advice though is I would strongly suggest investing a small amount of money in sleeves and a deck box to protect your investment. There's nothing worse than looking back in the years to come at cards that you can no longer get hold of and thinking, I wish I'd taken better care of them. So for a couple of pounds, please protect your investments. So there you go then folks, you've made it to the end of the video. I sincerely hope that it's been helpful for you, and I'll do a follow-up video in the future helping you with what to do next. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please consider hitting that like button. It really helps us to know which content to produce for you and what you're enjoying. And please consider subscribing and ringing that notification bell so it helps to keep you up to date with all the videos that we're producing. And if you know of anyone that you think could benefit from watching this video, then don't be afraid to share it. It helps the channel to grow and it helps the person that you intend to give it to. So it's a win-win situation all round. But for now, I'm Mark, you've been great, and I hope to see you all again in the future. Bye bye for now.